Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wildcard Wednesdays on Horror
Woo!
Film Lovers. I am Sarah Adkins, and I have the lovely Jonathan Moody
The
here.
lovely. All
And
right.
the
Woo!
lovely, and we are going to have a quick little chat
Oh
about
yeah.
a subgenre that happens to be one of my favorites, if you haven't noticed, and that is horror comedies, which we
Yes.
do have a couple lined up on our podcast this year. So please check that out.
We got a few. I picked a few, and I think you picked a few. So we
Yeah.
both tend to like that. So I'm very excited to talk about it.
Right. And we were just kind of chatting about how sometimes there's horror movies that we don't really get into. Like for Jonathan, he said he didn't really care about zombie movies, but if
Mm.
it's a zombie comedy, he loves them. So
I
I wouldn't say
yeah.
love, but he it chooses more to watch them or enjoys them a little more. And for me, it's like I like horror, but I also love horror comedies a little more because I kind of have a dark sense of humor. I love to laugh, which is one reason why I'm doing Dale and Tucker versus Evil on our podcast later this year. And I also love movies like Zombieland, and Shaun of the Dead, which are the zombie comedy movies. There's a lot of funny horror movies out there.
Yeah. So I think honestly, and I don't know, I because I grew up on comedies in general,
Hmm.
right? And so I grew up on stuff like Ghostbusters and
Yeah, Ghostbusters is a
we
classic.
we talked about Princess Bride. It's not horror, but like I
Not
grew up
horror,
on
but
that stuff. That
right.
those were my movies. Because Bill Murray, one of my favorite actors who's
Hmm.
in Zombieland, he is just, to me, he was the king of my childhood. Jim Carrey, all these guys.
Jim Carrey.
And
Jim Carrey was a big role in my childhood.
right. And then all of a sudden, I got into horror, and I think what drew me in was Scream, which we talked about in
Hmm.
Mainstream Mondays. Me and John Ward have been doing all the Scream movies. That is sort of what got me. So it's funny that I agree with you. Like, this is probably one of my favorite subgenres. Mine is slashers, but slasher comedies are fun
Right.
too,
And mine go from horror comedies to also horror romance or a little bit of both. Because I like my horror, but I also, like I said, I like it to have a little bit of a subcategory in there because I didn't really grow up loving horror. I grew up, with Disney movies and comedies and romances and stuff. And like I said, even Secret and Nim was a little scary for me as a kid. And Ferngully, like those movies terrified me. And I tried watching E.T. as a kid, and it terrified me. I was just a big wuss, honestly, when I was a kid. I
it's
lived in
fun.
Phoenix in the '90s, and I saw Tremors way at a young age. And I kept thinking graboids were going to come out of the desert and eat me. So I was just a very
Did you live in
over
the
kid.
desert?
I did. It was Phoenix, Arizona in the '90s when I grew up, and my mother and my grandmother watched Tremors on a vacation to California, and they kept telling me, "Don't watch it, Sarah. It's too scary for you." But I wanted to curl up in my mom's lap because I was probably like 8 or something like that. And of course, I'm gonna watch the movie, so I watched Tremors, and then we drove back from California to Arizona, like drove through the entire desert, and sometimes we'd stay on the side of the road in a camper and stuff like that. So I really shouldn't have been watching that movie. And I watch it now and I realize it's a comedy. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I like horror and I like horror comedies. It
Right.
took me a long time to get to opening up to scary movies. And it took me realizing that some of them are actually pretty funny. Um,
Hmm.
and I realized that I like the funny ones and the gory ones and the kind of the crazy girl ones and the romantic ones. Like I'm a little more into it than I thought I was gonna be.
Yeah. It's sort of funny. Like I never thought about that, but like Ghostbusters had the scene with the dogs grabbing Sigourney
Hmm.
Weaver and taking her, and I was afraid to watch my Ghostbusters up in the living room for a while because of that when I was a kid. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's a funny movie. Looking back, I was like, why the fuck was I afraid? But
Right.
like, I mean, to a kid,
Well,
that's
to a
terrifying.
to a kid it is because we just don't know the things we know now and all of that.
Hmm.
So things are scarier. Was the Cabin in the Woods? Is that the one I'm thinking of? That one wasn't bad. Is that the one I'm thinking of? That was a little bit comedic as well.
Yeah,
Because
it had some comedy in it.
yeah, that one wasn't bad. I really enjoyed that. there's quite a few comedy horror ones out there. Hatchet.
Hatchet had a lot of comedy in it.
The story of Leslie Vernon.
Yep, that was
Yep,
Behind the Mask.
that
I
was
think that was
funny.
called. Yeah.
Yes, Behind the Mask, the Leslie Vernon one. Like 2001 Maniacs, I think was kind of funny.
Yep.
A lot of Robert Englund stuff because he's just awesome at everything.
Yeah, and not to mention Freddy. Freddy was funny a lot.
Yeah,
and the
Freddy ended up becoming funny. Yeah.
right in the beginning, the first couple movies he was not. And I think the third one he started to kind of have those little sayings, and it's really funny because I believe that Eli Roth is really good at comedy and using it in his films. And his movies aren't horror comedies, but they have a lot of comedy in them. And he even said in a commentary thing that I heard that Eli Roth hated how Freddy Krueger and he hated those people that have those one-liners where those like, I'll knife you later, right? And stuff
all the
like
catchy
that.
ones, yeah.
All the catch lines and stuff,
Yeah.
catchphrases didn't make any sense for him. He was like, I don't find that, that kind of funny, that kind of humor funny. But like, I'm sure he liked movies like Animal House, where the humor was more frat guy humor, and that was what Cabin Fever was kind of like.
Yeah.
But that is funny and also scary,
Right. And we still have some movies that aren't technically horror comedy, but you have stuff like Army of Darkness and stuff though that definitely has some funny moments.
Well, that's a horror comedy. That's
yeah. It definitely got some funny moments in it.
Evil Dead had a couple funny moments, but wasn't really funny. Evil Dead 2, they was half and half scary, half funny. And then Army of Darkness was like its own fucking thing because it was just like Three Stooges, really silly, goofy.
It was very, I really enjoyed it. And then of course I like family funny movies like Gremlins.
Yeah, Gremlins is great, and that has a lot of comedy in it.
And I love Critters. I wouldn't really consider Critters like the first few ones weren't really comical, but it really turned into a joke. But like
right when they go to space, that's really
the later ones, the critter hybrid human being was a little funny there.
Leprechaun became that way too, where in the beginning it had a little bit, it was very straight and very
right, and then you end up with Leprechaun in the Hood and stuff like that.
Yeah, because like it was Jennifer Aniston was in the first Leprechaun. It was
she
really,
and I think that was her first role, wasn't it?
Yeah. I thought she did a great job. I mean, it's so funny. You could kind of see
the remake of that movie though is god awful.
I haven't seen that yet. Was it Leprechaun Origins or something?
It's not that great. But I do enjoy my funny horror movies.
Well, I think that's the problem, is because a lot of times they get to be too goofy, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna remake it, but we're gonna remake it and make it scary again. So back to Freddy. They try to do that with Nightmare on Elm Street. And if you've seen the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, I rest my case. It's just terrible. I
don't know if I've seen the remake because I don't know. I normally kind of stay away from the remakes of classics. Like I haven't even seen the remake for Hellraiser. Like I probably should, just so I have an opinion, because I do like watching bad movies just so I can have my own opinion. But it's been a little hard for me to watch remakes because I don't know. Like the classics are just, they're the classics.
Well, and I've talked to somebody about it, and I think we're going to be, at some point, John Ward and I will have a discussion about the remake to Friday the 13th, because I love that movie to death, and a lot of it's because it has comedy in it, which I want
to say that is the one remake I have seen, because it's an older one, right?
It's 2009.
I want to say I may have seen that one in theaters, actually.
Yeah, I saw it in the theaters. I remember I was working at a certain job, and I was super excited. And me and my friend who worked at the job together decided to go see the movie, and we were just like, "Oh my god, this is actually really funny." And later on, the same guys did. I believe they did. One of the other writers did something else. Maybe they did Freddy versus Jason. Or something. I don't know. Freddy versus Jason was pretty good too. Actually, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I did watch that one.
Yeah, and that had a lot of comedy. So I really believe that if the movie has comedy, but it's done well, you know,
Right.
and a lot of independent films try to put comedy in their movies and they fail, just because the writers aren't good at comedy, you know. I
We
mean,
we did watch a nice one that you recommended that I do consider horror comedy, The Final Girls.
hmm
Mhm,
yeah.
I did enjoy that one.
But had you seen it before I recommended it, or did
Oh,
you?
several
Oh
times. It
yeah,
was one of
okay.
those movies I brought. Like, I used to have this job where we had hour lunches, and I would always bring movies, and we would watch them like every lunch break. So it's one of those movies that I brought to show everybody, and ended up watching like probably 30 times.
Well, in a way, it was like to me, it was like, what is it? It was like Last Action Hero, but with
Mhm. Yeah,
horror, and I
yeah.
love that movie. Last Action Hero is like one of my favorite like Arnold Schwarzenegger
Mhm.
type movies.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love Arnold Schwarzenegger.
yeah,
Get to the top.
yeah. Get to the chopper. And he makes fun of himself in that movie in Last Action Hero. So like it was fun. It would have been nicer had a bigger name actor played
Hmm.
that that role, the main roles or whatever that were in horror, like, and they were making fun of themselves, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that would
Like
have been
maybe if
great.
the villain that they were trying to defeat was actually like Kane Hodder or something like that,
Well, no,
that
I
would
was
be
thinking more along the lines of like if it's
like the
Jamie Lee
counselors
Curtis,
maybe.
like Jamie Lee Curtis was the mother or whatever and stuff,
Okay.
and
That
things
would have
like
been
that.
cool.
Yeah, because then they could have made like little Laurie Strode jokes or something or whatever, make
Right.
fun of her the way that she was, but obviously it was very independent. They couldn't do that. They couldn't afford Jamie Lee Curtis, I guarantee you. And plus, I don't think at that time that the Final Girls came out that it was that she was coming back into the horror world, and she didn't come back until like Scream Queens came out.
Yeah, I
And
was actually about to mention Scream Queens because that's another one of those ones that has comedy aspects to it.
yeah,
I don't think I watched past the second season because I think it got a little ridiculous at one point, but
I
I
think they
did
only did two
enjoy.
seasons of
Okay,
that.
so I watched the first season and enjoyed it, and I don't think I made it through the second season, but I just not sure.
Yeah, I don't think they made any more after that, but I think I've
Yeah.
heard that they're going to have a third season coming,
Oh,
and I heard that recently that they were talking about it, so it may come out because of and Jamie Lee Curtis is done with Halloween with Halloween
hmm.
Ends.
Yeah.
She's already shot all her stuff, so that's all done. So I'm really excited to see,
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is one of those great actresses who's just going to just keep doing stuff forever and
Oh yeah.
keep putting out this great material for us. So we are very thankful for her.
Yep. Keep doing it, Jamie. But I'll always remember her from My Girl and not from the Halloween movies as
I
much.
unfortunately keep thinking of Activia every time I hear her name, but
I can see that
Activia.
too. It's just like
Yeah, and
what is it? The one the Winford Wilford Brimley and how he was into diabetes.
diabetes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, trust me, I know that one very
I,
well.
I yeah, you
Fellow
do.
diabetic. I
Yeah.
saw him at a con, and it was kind of funny because he just had that look on his face, just the whole like diabetes like face, and I was just like, oh yeah, like that was pretty fun.
Oh, did you meet him? Did you talk to him?
I didn't meet him because unfortunately a lot of the cons the lines are so long and you're very limited with money that usually I'm just kind of like the paparazzi going by going, oh, I see you, click click click,
Yep,
so
yep.
he
It would
looked
have been nice if you could have
nice,
kind of talked to him about the fact that you also suffered through it. So,
right?
but
We could have
it's
chatted
okay.
about insulin or something.
I, yeah, that's always a conversation starter, right?
What kind do you use?
What,
Yeah,
is that how guys hit on you? Like,
right.
do they come up to you at a bar and go, "So, what kind of
Is
insulin
your
do you
blood
have?"
sugar low? Do you need something sweet? I think you're sweet enough. Yeah, there's always some sort of sugar joke.
Oh Lord.
Always.
Oh man. But anyway, I appreciate you doing this Wildcard Wednesday episode. We haven't had you on yet, and I
Yeah.
wanted to do that because it's been mainly me, or I've been doing Wildcard Wednesday is either we talk about whatever we want to talk about, or we talk about or we do reviews, or I do old reviews and put them up like I've been doing for my stuff with Lila, because I have that, and I didn't want to, I didn't want it to go
Yeah, I'll
waste.
have to think of some more Wildcard Wednesdays that I can join in on so y'all can see my face a little bit more too.
And we could do like reviews. The reviews are just shorter. They're like 20 to 30-minute reviews.
We
So,
could do that. I have a few
yeah,
ideas.
already, because that's the thing. This year is going to be packed, especially with YouTube. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for checking this out. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also hit the notification bell to let us know that so you can be notified when there's another episode that came out. Also, please let us know what you guys think. Are you guys into horror comedies? Yeah, not into
Right.
horror
Let me
comedies?
know what some of your favorite horror comedies are. I want to know if I've seen them. And if I haven't seen them, I really want to watch them. So
Yep.
please share them with me in the comments below. And please like and subscribe.
And then we'll do a first time watch Friday, for
Yeah.
some of those. So thank you guys for checking this out. Join us next Wednesday for another Wildcard Wednesday. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.